Hello everyone and welcome to Ash's Whisky Wars. On today's episode of the Neckpour, we have a special edition whisky, bottled at cask strength, and this is a Talisker. It's the Talisker special release for 2023, and it's called the Wild Explorador, which, because I am learning Portuguese, I understand that means explorer in Portuguese. So you get that when you start learning things for 3 years. Now this whisky is bottled at 59.7% ABV, so it is a strong boy, that is for sure. But it's been aged initially in first fill bourbon casks, but then finished in a combination of 3 different port casks. We have the white port, the tawny port and the ruby port cask. So I am extremely excited to crack this one open today, to be honest with you guys. It's 8:30 at the time of recording in the morning. This whisky arrived in the post around 15 minutes ago. As you know, I am very impatient, only when it comes to whisky. I'm normally a very patient person, not when it comes to new whisky though. I have to open it up straight away. And because I film these videos for you guys, I have to do it on camera, so that's why we're filming it right now. Now, I've had quite a few new Taliskers this year. In fact, I've bought 3 new Taliskers this year. This is my 4th Talisker. So I've gone quite heavy into Talisker this year. But I've never bought a cask strength and I've never bought a special edition Talisker. So I'm super excited to get stuck into this. From researching their other special edition whiskies, there's an 8-year-old, there's a 15-year-old, there's an 11-year-old. They normally do age state their whiskies. So you would imagine, logic tells me this is younger than 8. Kicking things straight off, how nice is the bottle design on the tin? The bottle design, the tin design, the presentation tin. That's one of my favourite tins. And by the way guys, I save all the cardboard boxes and tins. I throw the bottles away, I keep the tins because I eventually want to do a background on the wall as almost like wallpaper with all the tins and boxes. I think that would look really nice. So definitely keeping this. It's going to be at the front of my collection for some time now. I have a cask strength Leitchick, so I'm really excited to try cask strength Talisker, and also the fact that it is Portuguese cask influenced. You guys know I love Portugal, I love port wine, and my links to Portugal now. So yeah, really excited to get this open. I have to say though, the bottle is really basic with the labelling. I think that's very basic. But the tin, I'm not too bothered about the bottle because the tin is beautiful. And by the way guys, you really want to stick around till the end when I talk about the price of this whiskey. I got it for a pretty good deal, so yeah, stay tuned for that, just in case it's still available for that price. Just before I open the bottle, if you would be so kind as to click the like button down below, share the video, and also click that subscribe button. Now, as always, I've not had a warm-up dram of whiskey, so this is going to be pretty strong, I imagine, so I might need a couple of sips before I can start talking about it. Cork pop time. Not bad. Ooh. Straight away I picked up some sweetness on the nose from those port casks. Quite a healthy pour actually for a cask strength whiskey. There we go. The nose actually doesn't smell as strong as I thought. I thought really it's going to be quite punchy, but maybe those port casks are just mellowing that intensity down a little bit. But initially what I liked on the nose there was I actually have the Port Re and the Distiller's Edition, and they are very heavily influenced by those wine casks. This one didn't feel as heavily influenced, but it was different to a normal Talisker. It had the sweetness still. I like that. So maybe I'm picking up white pour on the nose straight away. Maybe that's what it is. I think I'm picking up white port on the nose, but I'm also picking up Talisker, which on the other 2 that I just mentioned, the casking's so strong, it does take you away from that core DNA. this one stays true to that core DNA a little bit more of what Talisker is. Salt and pepper, oak spiciness. It's got that, it's the smokiness, the maritime salinity. That's all still there on the nose. I'm even getting a little bit of kelp, a little bit of seaweed behind that. And that is still present on this whiskey. So that's good for all Talisker fans out there. But there's a sweetness to the whiskey, but it's not overly sweet. It's just accompanying the core DNA, which I'm really liking right now. But I'm not getting that rich red fruit sweetness that you would expect from a port cask. And so I'm really thinking it's the white port cask that's playing the big largest part of the three right now. Maybe that'll change on the taste. I'm really enjoying this. The toffee element of a Talisker that I get on there, it's like a salted toffee, of course, with the pepper and the spice, the wood spice. It's like a smoked salted toffee. By the way, I adore white port. I've just bought a 10-year-old white port, which is great. Really picking up the white port influence more than the other two. And that's what I think is really benefiting the whiskey. I bought this purely for that intrigue on the white port finish, because I've always thought that a peated Islay or Island whiskey would benefit really well with white port finish, and I've never really seen it. So when I saw this for the price that I saw it at, it was straight away buy. But I think what's going to maybe shock a lot of people is the port casking isn't overbearing at all. I would say this is 70% normal Talisker, bottled at cask strength, with about 30% port cask, but maybe 20% of that is white port cask. So if you're thinking you're going to get those intense rich red fruits on the nose and it's going to come across sugar syrupy, no. It's white grape sweetness, a little bit of melon, like honeydew melon, with Talisker. And I think actually a lot of people will prefer that style. Right in the back end now, I'm starting to get glimpses of a raspberry. There's something candied right buried deep in there. Maybe a subtle glacé cherry. It's nothing natural. It's that artificial style. Glacé cherry. Definitely. Which actually I'd rather it be more natural, rich red fruits. But unfortunately, that's turned a bit candied. Now that I've picked up that note, the nose is getting a little bit more lackluster than what I was getting initially. So I think that is telling me, get into the taste quickly. A little bit of grassiness now on the taste. Just adding a touch of bitterness with that oak. There's a good amount of complexity in here, to be honest with you. Alright, let's get into the taste. But just before we do, if you'd be so kind to click the like button, the share button, but most importantly, that subscribe button if you haven't already. That'd be really appreciated, thank you. Based on that little sip, and it is my first sip at 60%, so all I got there was an incredibly salty. It was like salt water in an oak barrel. It had a lot of oak spice and a lot of salt water. So definitely maritime core Talisker coming through, with something a little bit sweet mixed in with that incredible saltiness. More salty than sweet and very spicy. I'll go back in again. I actually got reminded of like a cinnamon pastry that I actually have when I'm in Portugal. A really flaky, buttery puff pastry with that sugared cinnamon on top. That's what I picked up actually, is that the new note. Got a little bit sweeter in there. So each 3 sips is got from very salty and spicy it slowly drifted sweeter. Still not really picking up any tawny or ruby port cask. I don't think the whiskey has spent much time in those casks. My guess for this whiskey is it's definitely below 8 years of age. You can taste it. That is something that's coming through on the taste. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like 6-year-old whiskey finished for 6 months in those port casks. But this does taste a little bit youthful, but it is bottled at cask strength, so that would maybe emphasise those qualities. Unfortunately, I haven't tried the 8-year-old to really understand that side of things. I wish I had bought another special edition Talisker at cask strength to really go in a little bit more on what I think the age could be. Totally shooting in the dark with that figure. I have to be honest though, even though this whiskey is not what I was expecting at all, I can't say I'm disappointed in this whiskey. Especially for the price I paid. I think this is going to be the key, guys. The price I paid for this whiskey was amazing and more than worth what I paid for the whiskey. It's not blowing me away as much as I thought it would, and that's a shame. That is a shame. Okay, let's add a little bit of water into the whiskey and see if it changes. Actually, it's probably knocked it down to where I've had all my other Taliskers, between that 46-48% mark. Now I'm getting a sweeter nose, more sweet than salty. Actually, that's changed quite a bit. It's grassy and sweet, but I can still sense the oak, giving a bit of bitterness with that grassiness as well. Yeah, okay. Now that I'm thinking of red berries, I'm kind of picking something up. Proofing it down to a standard Talisker profile, it really shows that there's not much complexity in here. There's a sweetness to the Talisker. With regards to this, it's a little bit empty at that proof point. It's not enjoyable though, if that makes sense. Still think if you enjoy Talisker, you're probably going to enjoy this whiskey too. What I would say is, the flaked pastry note is a core note in this whiskey, and I do like it for that. When you proof it down, it definitely becomes a bit more sweet. The spiciness and the saltiness subside, and it allows that port cask influence to really affect it a bit more. On the back end of that sip, I started to get some summer berries. I must admit, I do like it when they don't, when the casking like that doesn't affect the whiskey too much, but just adds a nice element to it. I think, though, a touch more time in those casks. I don't want it to dominate the whiskey like the Port Ree and the Distiller's Edition does, but I would like just a touch more influence. And I think also the Talisker, if it was a little bit older, I think this would be a completely different whiskey. On the finish of the whiskey just then, I actually got menthol. So really, it's, I think, in short, from, this is just the Neckpour, by the way, first dram of the whiskey, and it could change over time. I will be doing an in-depth review of this whiskey in the future. Also, once it starts to open up, I will be doing a whiskey war with the Port Ree. Now, I am really excited for this one because this is an unaged Talisker, so it's young, finished in port casks. Now, we don't know what port casks they are. I would lazily assume ruby, but we don't know. This one clearly has all three influence in there. So this is a cask strength version of this on paper. So I'm really excited to get stuck into those two and see how they differ. I think from memory, the Port Ree has more of a port influence than this one does, a lot more. But that'll be coming in the future, so do make sure you have clicked that subscribe button if you do want to watch that video in the future, because I think that's going to be a really interesting one. Okay, let's touch on the price of this whiskey. So the RRP, from what I've seen online, this whiskey retails for £110 in the UK. For that money, I would say this whiskey is definitely not worth the money, purely based on the Neckpour. I picked this whiskey up on Monday for £49 in the UK. I think I've done pretty well, to be honest. Yeah, so this year I've picked up the Parlay for £49 and this special release Talisker for £49, which I'm happy with, to be honest. I think I've got them at good prices. For £49 for a cask strength Talisker, finished in 3 different port casks, on paper, that is well worth £49. And I think in reality, even though it's a little bit lackluster, it's still enjoyable. It doesn't wow me, it's not very complex, but it's still enjoyable. And I actually quite like it, but I'm not blown away by it by any means. For £49, would I buy it again? I think I would. I think I would, to be honest with you. For £110 though, would I buy this one again? Absolutely not. I wouldn't go near it for that price. And I did have a suspicion when I saw it on offer for that price. I thought, this has probably not been a very big seller. It's not been very well received. So do let me know in the comments down below, guys. Have you had this whiskey before? And after this review, would you be interested in trying it? I would personally recommend, if you see it for the price I got it for, get it. If you like Talisker, you're going to really like this whiskey for that price. But for the retail price, I would maybe say, honestly, from what I hear from the other ones, maybe go for a different special edition. But overall, not a bad whiskey. If you want traditional Talisker DNA at cask strength with a little bit of flaked pastry, puff pastry, sugar, cinnamon, and a little bit of those white grapes, and something hinting at red fruits, this is a good one to go for. If you did enjoy the video, guys, please do drop a like on the video, please share the video, but most importantly, please do click that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and I look forward to seeing you for the next Whiskey War.